Welcome back to the Up-Level Dairy Podcast. I'm your host, Peggy Coffeen, and we are bringing you another one of our most famous episodes of all time here on Up-Level Dairy, and that is the Showbox story. Tim Abbott and I sat down and shared last year at World Dairy Expo with Ernie Kueffner and Tom Morris. If you want to hear more from legends like these in the dairy industry, nominate a dairy great that Tim and I can sit down on the Showbox with once again in 2025. You can find our contact information in the show notes, but we would love to hear from you. Who do you want to hear from? The legends, the iconic industry leaders, and the legacies of some of the greats that have shaped the dairy industry as we know it today. And in the meantime, catch back up on this conversation with Tom Morris and Ernie Kueffner. Welcome to the Showbox here at World Dairy Expo for a special collaboration to highlight some industry icons. I'm Peggy Coffeen from the Up-Level Dairy Podcast, and in this special collaboration, I'm joined by Tim Abbott from Showbox Sires. And now, Tim, these stories from the Showbox that we're going to be sharing today are very much a reflection of what inspired Showbox Sires in the first place, aren't they?
That's exactly right, Peggy, and we're glad to collaborate with you from Showbox Sires and work with Up-Level in this beautiful setting with World Dairy Expo and the Coliseum behind us. We're excited to interview a few of the industry icons that talk about the passion that we have in this business. And really, you know, in our bull world, it's about cow families and passion, and in our people world, it's about cow families and passion too. And these people we're going to interview today, we could do 100 of them, Peggy, but today we'll do 3 or 4 people that are going to be great storytellers.
Absolutely. And Tim, we talk about this passion and vision, and I want to just revisit for a moment. So you and I sat down for an episode of the Up-Level Dairy Podcast a few months back, and you shared the story behind Showbox Sires and where the name came from. Where did it come from? You got to tell that story again. It's one of my favorites.
Yeah, it's really fun. You know, as Mike and I developed our business, we wanted to have a classy, catchy name, and we got thinking about, interestingly, Mike and I both met our wives showing cows, and we have a lot of Showbox stories, some we can tell and some we can't, but we said we want to make breeding cows like sitting around on the Showbox again, talking about mating cows, talking about great cows, talking about how to make the next one. And that's how the company was built and our name was established.
And this was one of those middle of the night epiphanies, right?
Yeah, Sharon would tell the story too. I sat up in bed and said, I've got it. I figured out what we're going to name our company. And I texted Mike Duckett, and he thought it was a great idea. So it was an epiphany in the middle of the night.
And so where we come together, Tim, in sharing these Showbox stories today is a common love and theme for things that relate back to the heritage and the legacy of what is built into the Showboxes that so many of us have. I have one that's been passed down from 3 generations in my family, from my mom to me, from my grandmother to her. And my favorite story about my old Showbox that I had as a kid was that my grandmother, who I never even got a chance to meet, she had loaded up that Showbox and took it on a train 100 miles across southern Wisconsin from Greene County to Milwaukee to show her registered Chester White hogs at the Wisconsin State Fair. And back then, she actually had to dress up like a man just to be able to ride in that boxcar with her pigs and her little Showbox. And so that was a Showbox story that I had shared with you and others. And that one hit home for you too, didn't it?
It really inspired me, Peggy, because that story is what we all have. We all have one of those. Yours might have been more profound, but after we put that story out, I had several people reach out to me, a guy like Larry Sherm talking about carrying the Showbox out of the fires in Columbus, Ohio. And I had others talk about the power of the stories that were told there. And I think that's what inspired this concept for you and I, are the stories that make this industry so great.
That's right. And you and I had these conversations on this theme of if those Showboxes could only talk, and the stories that they would tell, the things that they have held inside, and this contrast between the history and the legacy inside the Showbox and the many dreams that were born right here at places like World Dairy Expo by those that sat on them and asked that question, what if, what's possible, where are we going with our future? And that's what has led and directed some of the greatest industry icons and legends. And that's who we're joining with today to bring those stories to others and to be able to preserve a little bit of that history and a little bit of what made the dairy industry what it is, especially to an iconic show like World Dairy Expo.
Absolutely. We've got like we said at the start, the best backdrop in the world for the passion about dairy cattle breeding and showing. And I think this series, we'll identify some of the greats, but I think the series will give people the ability to dream, whether you're 9 years old or you're 59 years old. I think these people that we interviewed today will inspire you where they came from. They were all just common people. And now they're legends in this business, and I think that's really fun.
Absolutely. Well, let's get started, Tim.
Can't wait. Well, our first guests today are two legends in the industry that we're thrilled to have here today. On our sides here, we've got Ernie Kueffner from Boonesboro, Maryland, who will talk more about his illustrious career, but has been involved with the business his whole life, owned many of the great cows, one of the great marketers in the business, and will have some great Showbox stories for us. And to my right is Tom Morris, a legendary cattleman, auctioneer, sales manager from Amory, Wisconsin, has done about everything there is to do in this business and still doing it. So, Peggy, it is so great to have these couple icons with us today, and we're going to walk through some questions.
We sure are. Tim, why don't you kick us off?
Thank you. So, Ernie, we're going to start with you. You've been involved with the business for a lot of years. Tell us a little about your career and how many years you've been coming to World Dairy Expo.
As far as the second part, Expo's been about 45 years, which is a long time. Too long, maybe, some things. But, I was born in Indiana and brought up in Wisconsin on a brown Swiss herd, believe it or not. And they moved so slow, I asked my father if we could have a Holstein instead to show at the county fair. And so that happened too. And so I got more involved in the Holsteins than the Swiss. Moved to North Carolina after several years in Wisconsin running a sale barn and having a good herd of cows, which we sold out in 1982 with the Tom Morris sales business, and had a very successful sale. A lot of cattle went to California at that time, and still some of those cattle have, after several generations, they keep talking about them, which is good news. And then from there I went to North Carolina, got in the car business, but always loved cows and kept some good cows, and stayed involved in showing, stayed involved in coming here, and then eventually moved to Maryland, which Terry and I have been there now 27 years. So if you add those up, it's a hell of a lot of years.
And you've been involved, Ernie, with several champions here, Supreme Champions, Grand Champions. How many of those? Can you count them up for us?
Well, Nadine was 1996. And then Ashland was 2001, which we weren't even sure we were going to have a sale, of course, because 9/11 happened 3 weeks before.
Yep.
Tom and I talked constantly, and because I was also on the board of directors at World Dairy Expo, along with Tom, and that was a concern, but they went ahead and had the show, which was a great idea just to get people pumped up again because it was such a terrible situation.
Right.
And from there, we were fortunate enough to have Supreme Champion that year with Ashland. And that was the good old days because Tom was selling her daughters for $70,000, $80,000, not on terms.
That's right, for cash. For cash.
Yeah. And after about a week, that lapsed, But then let's see what else. And then I went to work as a consultant for Arethusa in 2002 and bought some great cattle for them. That was quite an experience. Of course, we had Veronica. She was Supreme Champion twice. Let's see, we had Veronica's daughter. She was Supreme Champion up at the Royal Winter Fair.
Leader Melanie,
and actually,
So many can't remember.
yeah,
it's ridiculous.
It is. But the point is, I don't think, guys, we could come up with another person that has had his name on as many Supreme Champions in that ring right there in the past 55 years. So, Tom, tell us a little about Tom Morris. I'm going to start, I want the thing people don't know, and I find this every time, Peggy, that I'm with Sharon and Tom. Sharon and Tom both won the National Intercollegiate Dairy Judging Contest. And so when you're with them, that's all they want to talk about is what it feels like to be a champion. But they did not win in the same year, Ernie. There was a big difference. So
Tom must have cheated.
Well, so anyway, Tom, with that introduction, tell us a little about Tom Morris.
That was a great introduction. I won here, believe it or not. It's pretty hard to decide where our roots started. Both my wife and I grew up in the industry, almost inbred in the industry. She came from Meyer Farms, of course, and they were premier breeder and exhibitor at Waterloo. And I've told you I've got the red ribbon in my office from 1954 to Royal Agricultural Winter Fair that Dad and Uncle won as first prize 2-year-old, and I was about this big in grade school, and that was a big day at the home farm. Now, that all goes back to we were 4 miles from Pabst Farms, and at that time, Pabst was, in the 50s and 60s, they were on top of the game. So there was always 1 or 2 of ours on the rail car. That's how we got to Waterloo and on in Chicago. I can't imagine Dad and Unc driving a truck to Toronto, or didn't even have pickups then. So we go back a long ways as far as here. Of course, I was here the first year. The second year, 69, our 3-year-old won in the Fay Barney Award, and the 2 old Ivanhoes, Scranton, that were Grand and Reserve. There was no intermediate champion, so I like to tell you guys we were third. We were really honorable mention, okay?
We know what you were.
So we go back a long ways. I had a lot of great mentors in the industry. After I got out of Madison, which I wish I'd never got out of the university, but the funds got a little short. Yeah,
Yes.
yeah.
Professors were pleased.
Yeah. Let's not go that story. I took a job at a junior college up in northwestern Wisconsin and spent 10 years in education, teaching young people about life more than cows, of course. And then, then Sandy came along, and then we bought the farm and had pretty good herds, had a bunch of dispersals at Duranda in the 80s, and then we got short of labor and the auction started, and it led from there. And then we sidetracked into the publishing business for 32 years, but all together, kind of, don't you see? So it's a confusing story. I don't know what I'm going to do when I grow up, but time's kind of running out for Ernie and I.
What do you mean?
I'm sorry.
It's running out.
Yeah, I used to think I was in the fourth quarter. Now I'm overtime, just waiting for the gun. But we'll see.
Well, the one thing, Peggy, that is common with both of them is you've both been on a lot of adventures and a lot of ventures, but it's always success driven.
Yes.
And interestingly, before you go to your questions, I think all 3 of us are sons of cattle dealers and great cattlemen. And I think that's interesting. All of our dads were, quote, cattle jockeys to a degree. And I think there's something to be said for that, because you learn about people, you learn about cattle, you learn about money.
Yes,
so that might have led us here. Might have led us here, Peggy.
All 3, and let's just also give a highlight too, Tom, to the World Classic Sale. We're here at World Dairy Expo, and you have been part of that World Classic Sale. This is year 35 for you this year.
35th, yes.
35th year.
I'm not near as nervous as I was.
Okay, so thanks for sharing a little bit of your histories and your stories, and the question that I have for you ties back into this overall theme of showboxes. And I'm guessing that in your history, Ernie, and in yours, Tom, there was an old showbox that you remember quite well. And if we could tap into one of those showboxes for one story, just one story that we could open it up and it would tell about you, about your family, about your history in this business, what would that one story be? Just one story.
I guess there's a lot of stories, truthfully. To really pinpoint one, it's difficult, but in 1996, we had been fortunate enough previous to that to buy a really good jersey in Ontario with Michael Heath, which is quite a story, but that's too long. What is important is that we got the cow bought. We went by these nice people and bought this beautiful cow. They had these little steps because they're jerseys, and they'd go up these steps to go outside. And so I said, take her out, and I want to look at her on the lawn. And so they paraded her around. And I said to Terry, who was standing next to me, I said, this cow could be supreme champion. She's that good, which was really a stupid statement.
Yeah.
And so we got the cow bought, got her home. She had feet this long, never saw a beet pulp, wanted to dry up. Everything went wrong, but eventually, over a period of time, we got her going, got up here. And I bought my hoof trimmer along, who also did clipping, Ross. And I said, I want to touch up this left front foot a little bit. Ross is still not right. I'm kind of a bizarre perfectionist. And I said, whatever you do, don't hit blood. Boom. Oh my God. So we can't say what I said, but eventually we got her on Polyflex, got her on tetracycline, got her on everything, and she still wanted to be a baby. She just wouldn't come around. So finally we got her going. Steve White was going to lead her. We got her down there. Steve says, she's still limping, Ernie. I said, what do you want me to do? He said, go get me a bottle of whiskey.
Was that for you or the cow?
You'll find out.
Okay.
We can't wait.
Tuned. This is the story.
Can't
This
wait.
is suspense.
So we believe in high quality stuff. That's why we're friends with these two people. And so I said to Ross, run and get a bottle of Crown Royal. Well, he knew where it was, trust me.
Yes.
So Ross found even the hidden bottle. He's kind of half-assed running back because he can't run real well. So he gets down by the cow and he goes, I said, Ross, it's for the cow. So Steve White grabs it, he takes a swig, everybody takes a swig, and we pour it down the cow's throat, and she wins the 5-year-old class.
No.
And she starts coming around then, and she's starting to feel pretty good. Then she's grand champion. So we get her back to the barn. We're all thrilled, of course.
Celebrating.
And Ken Emping comes around the next day, and he says, this cow could, you know how Ken is, he said, this cow could have a little more fun yet. I said, well, thank you for your support, whatever that might be. So, make a long story short, she was supreme. And that was wonderful because when you go through all that, buying the cow, Michael Heath, our great friend that died not too long ago, bless his soul, great friend, great cowman. And we were up in Ontario, and that was funny. One part I forgot. He couldn't find the farm. So I said, Michael, we got to go look at another cow called Vivian Counselor about 3 hours away, and we got to get there before milking. I said, just forget the cow. The hell with the jersey. Let's go. He said, no, just. So he saw a gas station. He says, this is before cell phones, of course. So got on the payphone. I said, call the people and see where they're at. I was getting very aggravated.
On a payphone.
And it was a holiday in Canada, so they had no hotel rooms, so we didn't get any sleep. So he calls people, finally figure out how to get there. Of course, when I saw the cow, I forgave him.
I bet you did.
So that was all part of it, too. Getting the cow bought, getting her home. Took her all the way to North Carolina, where I lived at that time, and got her ready for the up here, and then the blood from the hoof. But it's a great story. It's a true story.
And it's a good one. And I got to ask you, Ernie, so is the secret to your success all of these years a Crown Royal drench that you give every cow before they go
I think
in?
I should have bought some stock in Crown Royal instead of farming, if that's what you want to know.
Oh, that is a great Showbox story. Thank you for sharing that, Ernie. And that's such a heritage story to this whole show that we're standing in front of right now here at World Dairy Expo. And Tom, do you have one of those? Do you have a Showbox story? Or like one that's been tucked in that Showbox for years that you're ready to open up and let out?
I'm going to bounce off of his. I'm so old. We used to show aged bulls here in Chicago and Waterloo, and how you filled the bull was with the beer. You dumped the beer down the bull, and it extended, its stomach. But one guy opened the can, took it, or the bottle, passed it to the second guy that was holding on. He took one, and the third guy took one, and the beer guy. That's why they went through cases of beer to get the big bulls ready. And the nice thing was when you were leading them, they'd start belching. You ever hear, and the stuff would be running down your sleeve. And
now the guys were belching, or
no, the bull was belching.
Oh, okay.
We were
all of them.
All of them, but we were fine. But as far as showboxes, I can remember sitting down with Merle Howard, Alan Hatch the first year here, and that's when you got the finger. You boys got to do it. I still got bruises on my chest, I think. And he would, that's the way it was.
And what did he say to you?
I'm not sure you need to know.
She wants to know, but
Not specifically.
The PG version. What's the PG version? What's the version you tell your grandson, Evan?
I don't tell him nothing. His mother don't take a lot of coaching either. So, yeah, it's big day tomorrow, boys. We're going to get up and go earlier than today, right? He had a certain way, of very few words said, and you knew it was real.
Alan?
Yeah.
Yeah, he talked between cigarettes.
Well, yeah.
He could smoke some Camels. The real cigarettes.
Yep. So, showboxes, you learn so much over the years sitting on a showbox with the old guys, like me and Ernie.
So let me ask you this. What was there ever a dream that came from sitting on a showbox for you?
For me?
A dream that you maybe realized during your years in this business?
Oh, there's a lot of dreams. You sit there and you want to grow up and win, The other one I have personally, and Ernie would know, Harvey Swartz was an auctioneer, traveled the world over. He was probably as famous auctioneer back in the 50s as anybody. And he was my 4-H judging coach. He pulled me aside and told me what I ought to try for a career. And that's the first time I ever thought, well, I can count to 10. Maybe I can count fast to 10. But he's the type of guy that took time out. He'd like to tell stories about flying to Columbia and the two-wing plane and all that stuff. But
I hope they had two.
Huh?
I hope they had 2 wings.
There are things like that. Merle Howard, and Alan always said, can't tell you what to do, but if you're going to steal enough money in this business, make sure you steal enough, because you ain't ever coming back in this business.
That's quite a theory.
Right? It is right.
Guidance.
Words you've lived by.
Guidance.
Yeah, I mean, you can take 100. Well, 100 ain't going to be enough.
Ernie, did you have a dream that started on a showbox for you?
No. Not really. I mean, I was brought up very different than Tom, truthfully. We had a lot of cattle dealers in our life because we owned a sale barn, and I learned a lot from them. We had some excellent Jewish cattle dealers that my dad sent me out with at 16 and said, go learn something. So it was like a Harvard education in the barn.
Yeah.
And one gentleman told me one day, he says, Sonny, I'll tell you something. The good deals never quit losing, and the good deals never quit winning, the bad deals never quit losing. That's quite a statement.
That's one for our listeners to write down.
Oh, yeah. We're going to have some good ones coming out of this.
And you can use that in life anywhere you want.
Yeah, absolutely.
But that's things you learn.
Awesome stories. We could do this forever. I'm going to jump forward, Peggy, to a couple questions. I'll start with Tom. I've got two questions. First is the most influential person and I know you could list a ton, but give us a person that you say is the most influential person, and then also a cow or a bull that you think is the most influential in your career. So you can start with the person if you
Yeah,
will.
and that's extremely hard, and I would really hate to, my father and uncle, Silver Weiler run Pabst Farms all the way up. Dave Dixon was a great friend of ours for so many years, and in our wedding, and Merle Howard taught us so much. I started in the Piper organization. Dave Younger, Pete Heffering, the guys we had sales for, and so, you learn a little from everybody. Mentors are important, and I still have mentors because now I have to look to the young kids, and they are mentors too.
Sure.
I'm learning from them, and I think that's so very important that, time passes everybody by, but to me, the list would be long. I had the opportunity to work for 3 out of 4 of the founders of World Dairy Expo, and the fourth guy became one of my best friends, working the shows and that, and so we were.
And one reason your longevity in this business has been for decades is because you've learned and you've taken mentorship from everyone and education.
And here's the thing, and I don't have a lot of talents, but I learned a long time ago, surround yourself with gifted and talented people. And if you do that, you can do a lot of things. You can be in an auction business, you can be a farm business, a publishing business, the World Dairy Expo stuff. If you have smart, gifted people.
Wow.
Look at the Cattle Connection staff someday.
Yep.
They're all over here.
They're all iconic running pieces of our industry.
Right, and they've stayed with us 9-10 years, and I don't bring anything to it.
Before we get to the cow, I want to know the cow or the bull. But Ernie, let's go right to Ernie for your influential person or people.
It's difficult to pick on a person. I guess my father played a role because he kept me interested by passion, by allowing me to do things, by giving me extreme responsibility at a young age. So that I liked. I was up for it, so it worked out all right. And like I said, the cattle dealers played a big role in my life at that time when it was influential. And a lot of other people, Tom Morris, this man, you learn every day. You can learn. I don't learn as much from young people as he does, I guess.
But you've both said it. I mean, we all learn from each other, right?
Absolutely.
And that's what makes it great. Ernie, since we're on you, tell us about Pick Your Cow. I've got a seeking suspicion. I'm going to write it down. Go ahead and tell us.
This is like a game now.
Yeah, this is a game show.
This is a tough one.
Yeah.
Yeah. We've had a lot of great cows in our life. We're very, very fortunate to have the cows that showed also were great brood cows. So that was probably the best, most, and some of it was luck, of course, but you buy the best ones you can with the pedigrees, and hopefully they turn out, and most of them did. But Veronica's pretty simple. Veronica, the Jersey, 97-point Supreme Champion. But what's very important about Veronica, more than anything, is that she changed the breed.
That's right.
Classification system changed because of her. Because Ron Moser came to the farm one day, and she was 90 points, because at that time jerseys could be excellent 2-year-olds. But he said, what am I going to do with her? She had 2 calves. She was the second calf 2-year-old, and she had one everywhere. And I said, you got to max her out, Ron. So he made her 94. That was, as soon as what's his name saw that was the end of that.
That was the end of that.
So she actually changed a lot of things.
Sure.
With her daughters, with her bulls. So she's by far the most influential.
What an influence on the breed at large, and the way that even that evaluation system looks.
I'll tell you what, if you go out in the barn, which is interesting, and you start looking at Jersey signs, there's a lot of V's.
Oh, they're all V's.
It's amazing.
How cool is that? Tom, did we get your favorite cow, most influential cow?
No, and I have a hard time picking it. In my office hangs a picture of Linda Nictator Wimble Wimpy, who was about 4 miles from the farm, the first 97-point cow of the breed. But she never really did anything, so we'll move along from her, okay? I'm not sure. One of the cows would be Hazel, that we were involved with and 7 times nominated in that. But, as a partner in some cows. And the thing I miss more here is we no longer have a string in the last 35 years, but we've owned cattle in partnerships, and usually we have one here. The other cow that comes to mind that was really maybe one of the thrills I had was a cow named Broker Mandy. I was involved in kind of a syndicate. We gave Mr. Kueffner maybe too much money that day. But when she stood in the middle of the ring at the Royal Winter Fair with Jack Frazier, she's the youngest cow in decades and was grand as a 3-year-old. I remember standing there saying, let's hit it out of here, because I don't know if we're ever going to come back to this place. But that was truly, one of the memories of my lifetime.
That's great.
They paid for it.
Yeah.
Great.
Well,
I still got the roses that go on here. I took them home to my bride, and she's got them there by the kitchen table.
It's a touching story.
It
Yeah,
sure
it is.
And that's better than any anniversary roses you could have given her in the last how many years, right?
Right, she doesn't get a lot of that.
Well, I tell you, this has been so fun to
And that-
hear these
I got
stories.
the banner from Ron Bader too, after the sale.
Well, how the hell you get that?
Yeah, I did. Yeah,
Don't tell
I don't
Fincy.
think he knows. Yeah, I don't think either one of them know where it is. But
Oh,
it's great.
well, Tim, I don't know about you, but I'd say we should rename this segment Showbox Wisdom.
Yes.
Because that's what we've gotten from Ernie and Tom, these stories, but these wisdom nuggets, and I would say that some highly quotable ones that we'll all be able to learn from and what you shared with us today.
Well, it's been an honor, and it's been fun to be with both of you, because we go back a long time with her.
And we go back far enough, Tom.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you're not done with me yet. You're not done
No,
with me
and
yet,
This
Tom.
is not the end of this series. So, Ernie and Tom, on behalf of Peggy and I, thank you. It's been a great session. We appreciate you being here. We could go on for
was fun,
hours.
yeah.
We could have done this for hours.
Yeah, we're
But-
sorry we took so much
No,
time.
we loved it.
It's our
been
honor.
great.
Yeah.
It's
It's been
our
a pleasure.
honor.
It's just so you know, you have an excellent reputation in this
Yeah.
business.
You're looking at me or him? Oh,
Not him.
No, you.
thank you.
Get
well,
that.
hey, I try to hang out with good people,
Well,
just like you said.
it's working.
Yeah,
Thank you.
And good luck with this,
that's
Tim.
great.
Thank you.
Me get hug.
Thank you. It's been great. Thank you, my friend.
We hope you enjoyed these stories from the showboxes of Ernie Kueffner and Tom Morris. And we're not done yet. Join Tim and I on the next episode of the Uplevel Dairy podcast to hear 3 more show ring greats here at World Dairy Expo in the special series collaboration with Showbox Sires.